The morning sun filtered through the Venetian blinds of the Castellano household in Plano, a suburb north of Dallas, casting geometric shadows across the hardwood floors. Rob Castellano stood in his kitchen, coffee mug in hand, surveying the organized chaos of a Saturday morning. At 41, he possessed the bearing of a man who'd learned discipline in the Marines and applied it to every aspect of civilian life. His short-cropped hair showed touches of gray at the temples, and his posture remained ramrod straight even in casual clothes. "Dad, can you drive me to practice early today?" Alex called from the breakfast table, his 12-year-old voice cracking slightly. "Coach wants the starters there 30 minutes before warm-up." "Your mother's taking you, remember?" Rob replied, checking his watch. "She's got errands to run anyway." Diana appeared at the top of the stairs, her auburn hair perfectly styled despite the early hour. At 38, she'd maintained the polished appearance that had first caught Rob's attention 14 years ago at a military spouse gathering. Today, she wore expensive workout clothes that looked more suited for a fashion shoot than soccer practice. "Actually, honey," Diana said, descending the stairs with practiced grace, "there's been a change of plans. The tournament's been moved to the far north complex. We'll be gone most of the day." Rob frowned. "Tournament? I thought it was just practice." "Didn't I mention it?" Diana's smile seemed forced. "It came up this week. Alex made the select team for the invitational. Isn't that exciting?" Alex looked confused. "Mom, I thought you said—" "Go get your gear bag, sweetie," Diana interrupted quickly. "Emma, you too. We need to leave in 10 minutes. Rob watched this exchange with the analytical mind that had made him successful as an operations manager for Apex Logistics. Something felt off, but he couldn't pinpoint exactly what. Diana had been handling more of the kids' activities lately, claiming her new position as a senior corporate trainer required her to be more flexible with her schedule. "What time should I expect you back?" he asked. "Late afternoon, maybe early evening. These tournaments run long." Diana grabbed her designer purse from the marble counter. "You can get caught up on your weekend projects. Didn't you want to organize the garage?" 9-year-old Emma bounded down the stairs, her blonde ponytails bouncing. "Daddy, can we watch a movie tonight?" "If you're not too tired from your big tournament," Rob said, kneeling to give her a hug. "But remember, tomorrow's a school day." I know, early bedtime." Emma giggled and hugged him back. Rob stood and kissed Diana goodbye, noting the expensive perfume she wore something new he didn't recognize. "Drive safe. Text me updates." "Of course." Diana's kiss felt perfunctory. "Love you." "Love you too." Within minutes, the house fell silent except for the gentle hum of the central air conditioning. Rob finished his coffee and began his Saturday routine. First, he'd tackle the laundry, a task he'd assumed years ago due to his methodical nature and Diana's admitted incompetence with fabric care. Then he'd review the quarterly logistics reports that needed his attention before Monday's board meeting. In the master bedroom, Rob moved with the efficiency of someone who'd spent 6 years in the military and another 15 in operations management. The hamper sat in the corner of their walk-in closet, overflowing with the week's accumulation of clothes. He pulled out the plastic laundry basket and began his systematic sorting process. First, he separated items by family member, his clothes in one pile, Diana's in another, the kids in a third. Then he subdivided by fabric type and color. Whites with whites, darks with darks, delicates requiring special care. It was a system that had never failed him, born from years of military precision and refined through domestic experience. As he worked through Diana's clothes, he noted the increasing frequency of dry clean-only items. Silk blouses, wool skirts, expensive lingerie that seemed too elaborate for corporate training sessions. Diana had explained the wardrobe upgrade as necessary for her new position, working with high-level executives who expected a certain level of sophistication from their consultants. Rob reached deeper into the hamper, his hand closing around something that didn't belong. He pulled out a pair of Calvin Klein boxer briefs, tags still attached but clearly worn. The size label read XL. He stared at the underwear for a long moment, his analytical mind processing the information. He wore size medium. Alex wore boys small. These were men's underwear, expensive, unworn according to the tags, but Definitely dirty, according to the location and condition. The logical part of his brain began cataloging possibilities. Had Diana grabbed the wrong package at a store? But why would unworn underwear with tags be dirty and in their hamper? Had someone else's laundry gotten mixed with theirs at a laundromat? But Diana always did her laundry at home now, claiming she wanted to help him with the household tasks. Rob sat back on his heels, the boxer briefs in his hands, as his military training kicked in. In the Marines, inventory discrepancies required immediate investigation. Items that didn't belong in a system indicated either error or intentional tampering. Both scenarios demanded methodical analysis. He stood and walked to his home office, placing the underwear on his desk. Then he returned to finish sorting the laundry, his mind working through possibilities with the same systematic approach he used to solve complex logistics problems at work. 2 hours later, Diana's Lexus SUV pulled into the driveway. Rob heard her key in the front door, followed by the thunder of small feet on hardwood floors. "Daddy," Emma called. "We won! Well, Alex's team won. I just watched and ate snacks." "That's great, sweetheart," Rob called from his office. "How'd you play, Alex?" "Scored 2 goals in the semifinals," Alex replied, pride evident in his voice. "Coach said I'm improving on my weak foot." Diana appeared in the doorway of Rob's office, her workout clothes replaced by jeans and a casual blouse. Her makeup looked fresh, as if she'd reapplied it recently. "How was your day?" she asked. "Get everything done you wanted?" "Most of it." Rob swiveled his chair to face her, the Calvin Klein underwear visible on his desk. "I did find something interesting while doing laundry." Diana's gaze fell on the boxer briefs, and Rob watched her face carefully. Years of reading people in military and corporate settings had taught him to recognize micro-expressions. The brief flash of panic before conscious control reasserted itself. "Oh," Diana said, her voice carefully neutral. "Where did those come from?" "That's what I'm wondering," Rob replied evenly. "They were in our hamper, buried in the middle of the dirty clothes. They're not mine." Diana stepped closer, picking up the underwear as if examining them for the first time. "How strange. I accidentally grabbed the wrong package at Target this week. I meant to return them but forgot." Rob's expression didn't change, but internally, his analytical mind flagged the inconsistency. "They have the tags still attached, but they're dirty. They were in our hamper, Diana, with the dirty laundry. Maybe they fell behind the dresser and got dusty?" Diana's voice had a slightly higher pitch now. "You know how things disappear in that closet sometimes? Dusty enough to need washing?" Rob kept his tone conversational, but he was applying the same interrogation techniques he'd learned in military intelligence training. Let the subject talk, note the inconsistencies, watch for tells. "I don't know, Rob. Does it matter? I'll return them this week." "It matters because they don't belong here, and the explanation doesn't make sense." Rob stood, his 6-foot frame imposing without being threatening. "If you bought them by accident and they fell behind furniture, how did they end up dirty enough to be in the hamper?" Diana's jaw tightened. "I don't know every detail of how household items move around, Robert. Maybe one of the kids found them and threw them in there. Maybe I threw them in without thinking. Does it really require a federal investigation?" The defensive tone confirmed Rob's suspicions. In his experience, innocent people didn't get angry when asked simple questions about obvious discrepancies. They got curious and helped figure out the answer. "You're right," he said mildly. "I'm probably overthinking it." Diana's relief was visible. "Exactly. Sometimes things just happen. No big conspiracy." That evening, after the kids were in bed, Rob sat in his office reviewing what he knew. Diana's story had holes large enough to drive a truck through. The underwear was clearly worn, he could tell by the scent and the way the fabric lay. But it still had tags attached, indicating someone had worn it but never removed the labels. His phone buzzed with a text from Diana. "Working late on presentation tomorrow. Don't wait up." Rob checked the time. 9:47 p.m. on a Saturday. What corporate training required weekend presentations? He walked to their bedroom and found Diana at her vanity, applying makeup. "I thought you were going to watch a movie," he said. "Rain check? This client is really demanding, and if I nail this presentation, it could mean a huge bonus." Diana's reflection met his eyes in the mirror. Marcus, that's the client. He's very particular about everything being perfect. Marcus Webb? Rob had heard the name frequently over the past few months. According to Diana, Marcus was a recently divorced sales director who required extensive corporate training for his team. Yes, he's difficult to work with, but the company values his business. I need to keep him happy. Rob nodded and kissed the top of her head. Drive safe. Love you. Love you too. After Diana left, Rob returned to his office and opened his laptop. Years of military service and corporate leadership had taught him the value of information. If Diana was being truthful about her work demands, there would be evidence. If she wasn't, he started with their phone records. As the primary account holder, he had access to detailed call logs. What he found made his stomach tighten. In the past 4 months, Diana had made 347 calls to one number. He reverse searched the number and found it registered to Marcus Webb. Rob leaned back in his chair, processing the information. 347 calls in 4 months, averaged nearly 3 calls per day. That seemed excessive for any client relationship, no matter how demanding. He opened their credit card statements next, applying the same systematic approach he used for budget analysis at work. The charges painted a disturbing picture. Hotel visits during Diana's supposed training sessions, expensive restaurants during lunch hours, lingerie purchases from upscale boutiques, a new perfume that cost more than most people spent on groceries. The dates aligned perfectly with Diana's claims of working with Marcus Webb. Every difficult client meeting corresponded with suspicious charges. Every weekend team-building retreat matched hotel bills. Rob's military training had taught him never to jump to conclusions without solid evidence. But his corporate experience in investigating inventory discrepancies and process failures told him the pattern was too consistent to be coincidental. He needed more information. Sunday morning brought the familiar rhythm of family life. Diana seemed relaxed and affectionate, making pancakes for the kids and asking about their week ahead. If Rob hadn't discovered the evidence, he might have convinced himself he was being paranoid. How did the presentation go? He asked while she flipped pancakes. Really well. Marcus was impressed. He's already talking about expanding the training program. Diana's smile seemed genuine. We might have to do more weekend sessions, but the money will be worth it. More weekends? Emma looked up from her orange juice. But you already work so much, Mommy. Just temporarily, sweetheart. Daddy and I are working hard to save for your college funds. Rob watched this exchange with growing unease. Diana was lying to their children now, using their future as justification for behavior that seemed increasingly suspicious. After breakfast, while Diana was in the shower, Rob made a decision. He pulled out his phone and scrolled through his contacts until he found Jake Morrison. Jake had served with Rob in the Marines before becoming a private investigator in Dallas. If anyone could help him gather facts without jumping to conclusions, it was Jake. Rob Castellano, Jake answered on the second ring. It's been too long, Marine. Hey, Jake, I need to talk to you about something personal. Can we meet this week? Of course. Everything okay? Rob glanced toward the stairs, hearing the shower still running. I'm not sure. That's what I need to find out. They arranged to meet Tuesday afternoon at a coffee shop near Rob's office. After hanging up, Rob felt a mixture of relief and dread. Relief that he was taking action rather than wondering. Dread about what Jake might discover. Monday at work brought its own distractions. Rob managed logistics operations for Apex Logistics, a mid-sized company that handled shipping and supply chain management for Fortune 500 clients. His military background and attention to detail had made him invaluable in identifying process improvements and preventing costly errors. Rob, got a minute? Tom Rodriguez, the company's security director, appeared in Rob's office doorway. Tom was a former FBI agent who joined Apex 5 years earlier to head their corporate security division. Sure, what's up? Tom closed the door and sat down. We've had some concerning developments with the Patterson Industries account. They're claiming we shared confidential shipping data with competitors. Rob frowned. Patterson Industries was one of their largest clients, accounting for nearly 15% of annual revenue. What kind of data? Route optimization, pricing structures, delivery schedules? Information that would give competitors a significant advantage in bidding for their business. That's impossible. Those files are restricted access. Only senior operations staff can view that level of detail. That's what makes it concerning. Tom pulled out a tablet and showed Rob a series of documents. Patterson's legal team provided these emails from Pinnacle Sales, a competing logistics company. Look at the shipping route recommendations. Rob studied the documents, his analyst's mind recognizing the patterns immediately. These are our proprietary algorithms. The route optimization, the cost calculations, this is our system. Exactly. Someone with access to our internal systems shared this information with Pinnacle Sales. We need to figure out who and how. Rob's mind raced through the possibilities. The restricted files required senior-level credentials to access. As operations manager, he was one of only 5 people with that level of clearance. The others were the CEO, CFO, Tom himself, and... Who else knows about this? Rob asked. Just you, me, and the executive team. We're treating it as a potential industrial espionage case until we know more. After Tom left, Rob stared at his computer screen, processing the implications. Corporate espionage was a federal crime, carrying serious penalties including prison time. If someone at Apex was stealing trade secrets, the investigation would be thorough and far-reaching. He spent the rest of the day reviewing access logs and security protocols, trying to identify potential vulnerabilities in their system. By evening, he'd found several concerning patterns that he planned to discuss with Tom the next day. Tuesday afternoon, Rob sat across from Jake Morrison at a quiet coffee shop in downtown Dallas. Jake looked older than his 43 years, gray threading through his dark hair and lines around his eyes that spoke of too many late nights on surveillance. But his handshake was firm and his gaze sharp. "You look like hell, Rob," Jake said bluntly. "What's going on?" Rob had planned to ease into the conversation, but Jake's directness demanded honesty. He pulled out his phone and showed Jake the credit card statements and call logs he'd compiled. "I think my wife is having an affair." Jake studied the information with professional detachment. "How long has this been going on?" "The pattern started about 4 months ago, escalated significantly in the past 6 weeks." "Have you confronted her?" Rob told Jake about the underwear discovery and Diana's inconsistent explanation. Jake listened without interruption, occasionally making notes in a small notebook. "You want me to confirm what you already know," Jake said finally. "I want to know the truth. If I'm wrong, I'll apologize for doubting her. If I'm right," Rob trailed off. "If you're right, you want evidence that will hold up in court." "Yes," Jake nodded. "I'll need a retainer. $2,000 up front, daily rate after that. And Rob, if she's cheating, I'm going to find proof. Are you prepared for that?" "I need to know." "Fair enough. I'll start surveillance tomorrow. Give me her schedule and vehicle information." That evening, Diana announced she'd be working late again. "Marcus is really pushing for this expanded contract. If we can close it this week, the commission will be substantial." "What kind of training does he need exactly?" Rob asked, trying to sound casually interested. "Sales optimization, team building, leadership development. His company is expanding rapidly, and he wants to ensure his people are prepared." "Sounds like a good client to have." "The best. He's already referred 2 other companies to us." Diana grabbed her purse and laptop bag. "Don't wait up. This could run past midnight." After she left, Rob found himself pacing the house. The kids were doing homework, the evening routine proceeding normally, but everything felt different now that he was actively investigating his wife. His phone buzzed with a text from Jake. "In position. We'll maintain surveillance until she returns home." Rob tried to focus on work emails, but concentration proved impossible. He was reviewing logistics reports when his phone rang at 11:30 p.m. "She's at the Marriott on LBJ Freeway," Jake reported. "Checked in 3 hours ago with a man matching the description of Marcus Webb. They're registered as Mr. and Mrs. Webb." Rob felt the confirmation hit him like a physical blow. "How certain are you it's her?" 100%. I have photographs of them entering together. Want me to continue surveillance?" "Yes, document everything." "Will do. I'm sorry, Rob. Just get me the evidence." Wednesday morning, Diana returned home at 6:45 a.m., claiming the training session had run extremely late and she'd stayed at a nearby hotel rather than drive home exhausted. She seemed refreshed and energetic, showing no signs of the fatigue that should have accompanied a grueling work session. "How did it go?" Rob asked over coffee. "Excellent. Marcus was really pleased with the leadership modules we covered. He wants to schedule another intensive session this weekend." "Another weekend session?" "I know it's a lot, but the money is too good to pass up. Besides, once we get this contract locked down, things should calm down considerably." Rob nodded, watching his wife of 14 years lie to his face with practiced ease. "Whatever you think is best." That afternoon, Jake provided a detailed report. Diana and Marcus had been conducting their affair for approximately 4 months, meeting at various hotels throughout the Dallas metro area. Jake had documentation of 12 separate hotel encounters, always registered under false names. "There's something else," Jake said when they met again Thursday. "I followed Webb to his office yesterday. He works for Pinnacle Sales." Rob's blood ran cold. "Pinnacle Sales? The logistics company?" "You know them," Rob explained about the corporate espionage investigation at Apex, the stolen trade secrets, and the competing company that had somehow gained access to proprietary information. Jake whistled softly. "That changes everything. This isn't just adultery anymore. If your wife has access to your company's confidential information, she doesn't have direct access, but I work from home sometimes. She could have seen documents, overheard phone calls, accessed my laptop. Or you could have told her things in casual conversation that she passed along to Webb." The implication hung between them like a physical presence. Rob's marriage wasn't just ending, it might have been used as a weapon against his career and his company. "I need you to expand the investigation," Rob said. "Document everything. Every meeting, every conversation you can record, every connection between Diana and Marcus's company. This is going to get expensive and complicated. I'll pay whatever it costs. If my wife is committing industrial espionage, I need to know the full extent." Friday evening, Rob was reviewing quarterly reports when Diana appeared in his office doorway. She was dressed for an evening-out black dress, heels, makeup carefully applied. "I'm going to a company networking event," she announced. "Several potential clients will be there. Great opportunity to expand our business." "What company is hosting?" "Pinnacle Sales. They're looking for corporate training partners." Rob's hands stilled on his keyboard. Diana was announcing her intention to attend an event at her lover's company, apparently unaware that Rob knew about Marcus Webb's employer. "Sounds like a valuable connection," he said neutrally. "Exactly. Marcus will be there so he can introduce me to the decision-makers." "How convenient." Diana studied his expression, perhaps sensing something in his tone. "Is everything okay? You seem distant lately." "Just work stress. We've been dealing with some client issues." "Anything I can help with?" "You know I'm good at analyzing business problems." The offer sent a chill down Rob's spine. Was she fishing for information about the Apex investigation? Did she know about the stolen trade secrets? "Thanks, but it's just routine operational stuff. Nothing a corporate trainer would find interesting." Diana smiled and kissed his cheek. "Well, if you change your mind, I'm happy to listen. Sometimes an outside perspective helps." After she left, Rob called Jake immediately. "She's going to Pinnacle Sales tonight. Claimed it's a networking event." "I'll be there. This might be the break we need to document the corporate connection." "Jake, I want you to start recording conversations. Texas is a one-party consent state." "Already ahead of you. I've been wearing a wire for the past 2 days." Saturday morning brought another family soccer game, but this time Rob paid closer attention to Diana's interactions with other parents. She seemed nervous, checking her phone frequently and avoiding extended conversations. When Marcus Webb appeared on the sidelines, ostensibly watching another child play, Rob observed their careful choreography of avoiding obvious contact. During halftime, Rob approached Marcus, extending his hand with a friendly smile. "I don't think we've met." Rob Castellano, Alex's dad. Marcus looked momentarily startled before recovering. "Marcus Webb, nice to meet you. Diana mentioned you're one of her corporate clients. Sales training, right?" "That's right. Your wife is very thorough in her approach." Rob noted the slight hesitation and the way Marcus glanced toward Diana, who was watching their conversation with obvious tension. She takes pride in her work, always talking about how demanding her clients can be. Demanding clients get the best results, Marcus replied, with what might have been intended as humor. I'm sure they do. Rob's smile never wavered. What line of sales are you in? Logistics and supply chain management? No kidding. I work in that field too. Apex Logistics. Maybe we know some of the same people. The color drained from Marcus's face. Apex? Yes, We're familiar with your company. Small world. Maybe we should grab coffee sometime, compare notes on the industry. That would be interesting. Marcus was clearly uncomfortable now. I should check on my son. As Marcus walked away, Rob noticed Diana approaching quickly. What were you talking to Marcus about? She asked, trying to sound casual. Just being friendly. Turns out he's in logistics too. Funny coincidence. Diana's laugh sounded forced. Yes, funny. That afternoon, Jake called with urgent news. I followed them to the Westin downtown after the soccer game, but more importantly, I overheard a conversation that you need to hear. An hour later, Rob sat in Jake's office listening to a recording that made his worst fears concrete. Diana's voice came through clearly. I got the Patterson Industries route information you needed. Rob had the files on his laptop when he was working from home last week. Marcus's response was equally damning. Perfect. That should give us the edge we need to underbid their proposal. Your access has been invaluable. I just feel guilty sometimes. Rob trusts me completely. Don't think about it that way. You're securing our future together. Once Pinnacle lands these major contracts, I'll be promoted to VP. We can be open about our relationship, and you'll never have to worry about money again. What about Rob and the kids? Rob will land on his feet. Men like him always do, and the kids will adjust. Divorce is common these days. Rob listened to the recording 3 times before speaking. How much of this conversation did you capture? 23 minutes total. They discussed specific clients, trade secrets, and their plans for the future. Diana provided Marcus with confidential information about at least 6 different companies. Federal crimes. Multiple federal crimes. Trade secret theft, computer fraud, conspiracy. We're talking years in prison if prosecuted. Rob stared at the recording device, processing the magnitude of what he'd learned. His wife wasn't just cheating, she was systematically stealing from his company and destroying his professional reputation. The clients Apex had lost, the contracts that had gone to competitors, the ongoing investigation that threatened his career, all of it traced back to Diana's betrayal. I need copies of everything, he said finally, and I need you to continue surveillance. Document every meeting, every conversation, every transfer of information. What are you planning? I'm going to end this. Completely. Sunday morning, Rob sat in his office making a list. Military training had taught him the importance of clear objectives and systematic planning. If he was going to destroy Diana's ability to harm him further, he needed to coordinate multiple moving parts. First, he needed to protect his company. Tom Rodriguez needed to know about the source of the security breach. Second, he needed to protect his children. Family court would need evidence of Diana's criminal behavior. Third, he needed to protect his future. The trade secret theft had damaged his professional reputation, but handling it correctly could restore and even enhance his standing in the industry. His phone rang at 9:30 a.m. Diana was calling from what she'd claimed was a client emergency. Hi, honey, her voice was breathless. This Patterson Industries situation is really complex. Marcus and I are going to need to work through most of the day to get it resolved. Patterson Industries. Rob's grip tightened on the phone as he realized Diana was telling him exactly which client information she was helping Marcus steal. That's too bad. The kids were hoping for family time today. I know, I feel terrible. But if we can solve this problem, it could mean a huge contract for both our companies. Both companies? I mean, for his company as our client, and for us as their training provider. Another lie. Another manipulation. Rob kept his voice neutral. Do whatever you need to do. I'll handle things here. Thank you for being so understanding. I love you. I love you too. After hanging up, Rob immediately called Tom Rodriguez. Tom, I need to meet with you today. It's about the security breach. I thought you were spending Sunday with family. This can't wait. I think I know who's been stealing our trade secrets. They met at Tom's home office an hour later. Rob provided copies of Jake's surveillance reports and audio recordings, watching Tom's expression grow increasingly grim. Jesus Christ, Rob. Your wife has been working with Pinnacle Sales for months. It gets worse. She just called to tell me she's working on the Patterson Industries situation today. She's actively helping Marcus Webb steal our client right now. Tom was already reaching for his phone. I'm calling the FBI. This is way beyond corporate security now. Wait. Rob held up a hand. I want to coordinate this properly. If we move too fast, Diana and Marcus might destroy evidence or claim they were just sharing publicly available information. What do you suggest? Give me one more week to gather additional evidence. Then we move on all fronts simultaneously: criminal charges, civil lawsuits, and divorce proceedings. Hit them with everything at once before they know what's happening. Tom considered this. You're thinking like a military strategist. Because this is war. They've been attacking my company, my family, and my reputation for months. Time to return fire. Monday morning brought renewed focus. Rob arrived at work early and began documenting every instance where confidential information might have been compromised. He reviewed client lists, contract details, and proprietary processes that Diana could have accessed through their home interactions. The scope was staggering. Diana had been present for numerous phone calls, business dinners, and home office sessions over the past 4 months. She'd had opportunities to photograph documents, overhear conversations, and access his laptop when he wasn't careful about screen locks. Rob, got a minute? Sarah Mitchell appeared in his doorway. Sarah was the corporate attorney who handled Apex's legal affairs, a sharp woman in her 50s who'd built a reputation for aggressive protection of intellectual property. Of course. What's up? Tom briefed me on the security situation. I wanted to discuss the legal ramifications. They spent 2 hours reviewing federal statutes related to trade secret theft. Under 18 U.S.C. I-1832, the penalties were severe, up to 10 years in federal prison and substantial fines. Civil remedies included actual damages, disgorgement of profits, and attorney fees. The key element is proving intent to benefit a foreign or domestic economic competitor, Sarah explained. Based on the evidence you've provided, that shouldn't be difficult. What about Diana's liability versus Marcus's? They're both equally culpable under conspiracy statutes. The person who steals the information and the person who receives it face identical charges. And their employers? Pinnacle Sales could face civil liability if they knew or should have known the information was stolen. Diana's training company could lose its corporate license. Rob nodded, absorbing the implications. Diana's betrayal wouldn't just destroy her personally, it would eliminate her ability to work in corporate training ever again. Tuesday evening, Rob implemented the next phase of his plan. He waited until Diana was settling in to work on her laptop in the living room, then approached with a cup of coffee and a casual question. Diana, I could use your professional opinion on something. We're having route optimization issues with a major client. Diana looked up, perhaps sensing an opportunity. What kind of issues? Cost overruns, delivery delays, the usual. I'm wondering if there's a training component that might help our operations team work more efficiently. I'd be happy to take a look. What client? Rob activated the voice recording app on his phone, kept in his pocket. Texas's one-party consent law made the recording completely legal. Patterson Industries were struggling to meet their pricing expectations while maintaining service levels. Diana's eyes lit up with interest. Patterson Industries? That's a huge account. What specific challenges are you facing? For the next 30 minutes, Rob fed Diana increasingly detailed information about Patterson's shipping requirements, pricing structures, and contract terms. Diana asked probing questions and offered suggestions that would have been valuable if she'd actually been trying to help Apex win the business. Instead, Rob knew she was gathering intelligence for Marcus Webb to use in Pinnacle's competing proposal. This is really complex, Diana said finally. Would it help if I put together a comprehensive analysis? I could review all the documentation and provide recommendations. That would be incredibly helpful. I'll gather the files tomorrow. Rob ended the recording with damning evidence of Diana's willingness to steal additional trade secrets. More importantly, he documented her active solicitation of confidential information that she knew was intended to help a competitor. Wednesday brought the final piece of evidence Rob needed. Jake called with photographs of Diana and Marcus meeting with Patterson Industries executives at an expensive downtown restaurant. They presented what looked like a detailed proposal, Jake reported. Lots of charts and graphs, professional presentation materials. Diana did most of the talking. She's using her training company as a front to present Pinnacle's stolen proposals. That's exactly what it looked like. I recorded as much as I could from across the restaurant. Send me everything. We move tomorrow. Thursday morning, Rob arrived at work to find Tom Rodriguez waiting in his office with Sarah Mitchell and a man he didn't recognize. Rob, meet Detective Lisa Smith from the Dallas PD Corporate Crimes Division, Tom said. She's going to be handling the criminal investigation. Detective Smith was a compact woman in her 40s with intelligent eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. Mr. Castellano, I've reviewed the evidence you've provided. We have enough for search warrants and arrests, but I wanted to coordinate timing with your divorce attorney. I don't have a divorce attorney yet. You need one, today. Sarah pulled out a business card. Catherine Reynolds is the best family law attorney in Dallas. She specializes in high-asset divorces involving criminal behavior. Rob looked at the card, realizing that after weeks of investigation and planning, he was finally ready to act. How quickly can we move? Catherine can file divorce papers today if you retain her this morning, Sarah replied. Detective Smith can execute warrants this afternoon. We serve Diana at work, Marcus at his office, and search their homes simultaneously. What about my kids? They'll be at school during the arrests, Detective Smith said. Family Services will coordinate with your divorce attorney to ensure they're protected throughout the process. Rob felt the weight of decisions settling on his shoulders. Once they moved forward, there would be no going back. Diana would be arrested, charged with federal crimes, and face years in prison. Their marriage would be over, their family destroyed. But the alternative was allowing her continued betrayal to destroy his career and his company. The choice had been made the moment she decided to steal trade secrets. Let's do it. The next few hours passed in a blur of legal paperwork and strategic planning. Catherine Reynolds proved to be everything Sarah had promised: sharp, aggressive, and completely focused on protecting Rob's interests and his children. Based on the criminal evidence, we can argue for immediate temporary custody, Catherine explained. Diana's behavior demonstrates poor judgment and potential flight risk. The court will want to protect the children from further instability. What about assets? Texas is a community property state, but criminal behavior can affect division. Diana's use of marital funds to conduct an affair and commit crimes gives us grounds to argue for deviation from 50-50 split. At 2:30 p.m., Rob's phone rang with Diana's number. Rob, something terrible has happened at work. Diana's voice was shaking. The police came and arrested Marcus. They're saying he stole trade secrets or something. It's completely insane. Rob had been expecting this call. That's awful. Do you know any details? They're investigating his company for industrial espionage. Rob, this could affect my training contract with them. If Marcus goes to prison, I'll lose one of my biggest clients. The performance was remarkable. Diana was expressing concern about losing income from the company her lover had been using to steal from Rob's employer. I'm sure it will work out, Rob said neutrally. I hope so. This is such a mess. I'm coming home early today. I need to figure out how to protect my business. See you at home. 30 minutes later, Detective Smith called. Diana's in custody. We arrested her at her office with a search warrant for her computers and files. She's being charged with conspiracy to commit theft of trade secrets and computer fraud. How did she react? Complete shock. Claimed she had no idea what we were talking about. Very convincing performance, actually. What happens now? Initial appearance before a federal magistrate tomorrow morning. Her attorney can request bail, but given the evidence and flight risk, I expect she'll be held pending trial. Rob felt a mixture of relief and sadness. The investigation was over, but the real consequences were just beginning. That evening, Rob sat his children down for the most difficult conversation of his life. Kids, There's something important I need to tell you about Mom. Alex and Emma looked at him with the trust that children reserved for their parents, completely unaware that their world was about to change forever. Mom has been arrested by the police. She's accused of stealing information from Daddy's company and giving it to people who weren't supposed to have it. Emma's eyes filled with tears immediately. Is Mommy going to jail? I don't know yet, sweetheart. There will be a trial, and a judge will decide what happens. Alex at 12 understood more than his sister. Is this why you've been acting weird lately? Did you know this was going to happen? Rob had prepared for this question. I suspected something was wrong, so I hired people to help me find out the truth. I didn't want to believe it, but the evidence was very clear. Are you and Mom getting divorced? Alex asked. Yes, I filed for divorce today. Emma began crying harder. I want Mommy to come home. Rob gathered both children in his arms. I know this is scary and confusing, but I promise you that no matter what happens, I will always take care of you. You will always have a home with me, and you will always be safe. Over the next hour, Rob answered their questions as honestly as age-appropriate explanations allowed. Yes, they would probably live with him most of the time. Yes, they could still see their mother, but it would be complicated for a while. No, this wasn't their fault in any way. The weekend passed in a strange suspension of normal life. Diana remained in federal custody, her bail hearing scheduled for Monday morning. Rob fielded calls from relatives, friends, and neighbors who'd heard about the arrest through local news coverage. Corporate training executive arrested in trade secret theft, read the headline in the Dallas Business Journal. The article provided few details but made it clear that the case involved multiple companies and potentially millions of dollars in stolen intellectual property. Monday morning, Rob sat in the federal courthouse gallery as Diana appeared before Magistrate Judge Harrison for her initial hearing. She wore an orange jumpsuit instead of her usual professional attire, and her hair hung limply without its typical styling. Catherine Reynolds had warned Rob that seeing Diana in custody would be emotionally difficult, but he wasn't prepared for the mixture of sadness and anger that washed over him. This was the woman he'd married, the mother of his children, reduced to a criminal defendant because of choices she'd made. Diana's attorney, a public defender named James Walsh, argued for reasonable bail based on her ties to the community and lack of criminal history. Federal prosecutor Angela Martinez countered with evidence of flight risk and the ongoing investigation. Your Honor, the defendant has demonstrated a pattern of deception spanning several months, Martinez argued. She systematically betrayed her husband's trust to steal trade secrets worth millions of dollars. This level of premeditation and betrayal suggests she cannot be trusted to comply with release conditions. Judge Harrison listened to both arguments before announcing his decision. Bail is set at $500,000 with electronic monitoring and surrender of passport. The defendant is prohibited from contacting any Pinnacle sales employees or accessing any computer systems. Diana's attorney conferred with her briefly before addressing the court. Your Honor, my client cannot post bail at that amount. Then the defendant will remain in custody pending trial. Rob watched Diana's face crumble as the reality of her situation sank in. She would spend the next several months in federal detention, awaiting a trial that could result in years in prison. As the court adjourned, Diana's eyes found Rob in the gallery. Her expression pleaded for help, for forgiveness, for some sign that their 14 years of marriage meant he would support her through this crisis. Rob met her gaze steadily, then stood and walked out of the courtroom. The next several weeks blurred together in a mixture of legal proceedings and attempts to maintain normalcy for the children. Diana's criminal case moved through the federal system with methodical precision. Marcus Webb, unable to post his own substantial bail, joined Diana in federal detention. The civil lawsuit proved even more devastating. Apex Logistics filed claims for actual damages of $2.3 million, representing clients' loss to Pinnacle sales, plus disgorgement of profits and attorney fees. Pinnacle Sales, facing its own criminal investigation, quickly moved to settle and cooperate with authorities. Diana's training company will lose its corporate license, Catherine reported during one of their regular updates. The Texas Workforce Commission doesn't mess around with criminal convictions involving professional services. What about her ability to work in the field again? Essentially zero. Corporate training requires trust and credibility. A federal conviction for trade secret theft ends that career permanently. The divorce proceedings moved in parallel with the criminal case. Diana, represented by an overworked public defender in both matters, had little ability to contest Rob's request for primary custody and favorable asset division. "She's in no position to fight," Catherine explained. "Her criminal behavior violated her fiduciary duty to the marriage. The court views her actions as waste of marital assets for personal gain." What does that mean practically? You'll get approximately 70% of marital assets, primary custody of the children, and child support from Diana once she's released from prison. Rob found himself in the strange position of rebuilding his life while his wife sat in federal detention. The children attended counseling sessions with Dr. Jennifer Parks, a family therapist who specialized in helping children cope with parental incarceration. "They're handling it better than many kids in similar situations," Dr. Parks reported after several sessions. "Having one stable parent who's completely honest with them makes a tremendous difference." Rob had made the decision early to tell Alex and Emma the truth in age-appropriate terms. Diana had broken laws, hurt their family, and would have to face consequences. But those consequences weren't their fault, and their father's love for them would never change. 3 months after Diana's arrest, Rob received a call from prosecutor Angela Martinez. "Diana's attorney wants to discuss a plea agreement. Are you available to meet with our office this week?" "What kind of plea?" 18 months federal prison, 3 years supervised release, $50,000 in criminal restitution, plus cooperation in any ongoing investigations. Rob considered the offer. 18 months meant Diana would be released while the children were still young enough to rebuild some kind of relationship with her. But the felony conviction would follow her forever. What does cooperation involve? Full disclosure of all trade secret theft, testimony against any other conspirators, and assistance in recovering stolen intellectual property. The meeting took place in the federal prosecutor's office downtown. Diana, thinner and pale from months in detention, sat beside her attorney looking nothing like the confident corporate trainer Rob had married. "Mr. Castellano," Prosecutor Martinez began, "your wife's cooperation has been valuable in understanding the full scope of the conspiracy. She's provided information about other companies that may have been victims." Rob looked at Diana directly for the first time since the courtroom. "Other companies?" Diana's voice was barely a whisper. "Marcus had other sources. I wasn't the only one providing information." The revelation that Diana was part of a larger industrial espionage network added another layer of betrayal. Rob wondered how many other families had been destroyed by Marcus Webb's systematic targeting of vulnerable spouses. "The plea agreement includes a provision that she cannot profit from her story," Martinez continued. "No book deals, movie rights, or paid interviews about the case." Rob nodded. "What about restitution to my family?" "That's handled in the civil proceedings. This is strictly criminal restitution to compensate the government for investigation costs." Diana's attorney leaned forward. "Mrs. Castellano would like to address her husband directly, if that's acceptable." Rob looked at Diana, waiting. "Rob, I know I've destroyed everything." Diana's voice was stronger now, though tears ran down her cheeks. "I can't explain why I did it, because I don't understand it myself. I threw away 14 years of marriage and hurt our children for a man who didn't care about me at all." She paused, gathering herself. "I know you'll never forgive me, and I don't deserve forgiveness. But please, please don't let the kids forget that I love them. Whatever happens to me, make sure they know that none of this was their fault." Rob felt a complex mixture of emotions, anger, sadness, and something that might have been pity. The woman in front of him bore little resemblance to the confident, successful professional he'd married. Diana had destroyed herself as thoroughly as she'd destroyed their family. "They know they're not to blame," he said quietly. "And they know you love them, even though you made terrible choices." Diana nodded, unable to speak. Rob stood to leave. "For what it's worth, Diana, I hope you find a way to rebuild your life after this. But it won't be with me, and it won't be at the expense of our children's stability." 6 months later, Diana was sentenced to 18 months in federal prison followed by 3 years of supervised release. Marcus Webb received 24 months after the judge determined he'd been the leader of the conspiracy. The civil lawsuit concluded with a settlement that required Diana to surrender most of her retirement savings and future earnings above poverty level until the judgment was satisfied. Pinnacle Sales paid the bulk of the damages and agreed to implement new security measures to prevent future trade secret theft. Rob's professional reputation, initially damaged by the security breach, was ultimately enhanced by his methodical handling of the crisis. Other companies began consulting with Apex Logistics about insider threat prevention, viewing Rob as an expert in identifying and neutralizing internal security risks. "You've turned a personal disaster into a professional advantage," Tom Rodriguez observed. "The board is talking about promoting you to Vice President of Operations." "It's strange how things work out," Rob replied. "I never wanted to become an expert in corporate espionage." "But you're exceptionally good at it." The Patterson Industries case study is being used in business schools as an example of how to protect intellectual property. Rob had indeed testified before Congress about insider threats in corporate America, drawing on his experience to recommend policy changes in federal trade secret law. The irony wasn't lost on him that Diana's betrayal had elevated his career beyond anything he'd achieved through conventional means. The children adapted to their new reality with the resilience that psychologists said was common in stable single-parent homes. Alex, now 13, had grown more serious but maintained strong grades and his passion for soccer. Emma, 10, still struggled sometimes with understanding why her mother couldn't live with them, but Dr. Parks assured Rob that her adjustment was progressing normally. "They have something many children of incarcerated parents don't have," Dr. Parks explained during one of their sessions. "Complete honesty from their custodial parent, and a clear understanding that the incarcerated parent's actions were wrong. Sometimes I wonder if I'm being too harsh. Diana is still their mother." "Rob, you've never said anything negative about Diana personally. You've explained her actions and their consequences truthfully. That's exactly what children need to process trauma and move forward." A year after Diana's sentencing, Rob met Dr. Jennifer Parks for coffee. What had begun as a professional relationship counseling his children had gradually evolved into something more personal. "Are you sure you're ready for this?" Jennifer asked as they walked through downtown Dallas. "Dating a therapist who's worked with your children creates some complicated dynamics." "Everything about my life has been complicated for the past 2 years," Rob replied. "But you've been there for Alex and Emma when they needed help most. You've seen us at our worst and helped us become stronger. That's exactly why I need to be careful. I don't want to complicate their healing process." Rob stopped walking and faced her. "Jennifer, my children trust you completely. They've told me more than once that they hope we become more than friends. I think they see you as someone who genuinely cares about their well-being." "I do care about them. And about you." "Then let's see where this goes. Slowly, carefully, but honestly." Jennifer smiled. "Honestly is something you're very good at." 2 years after Diana's sentencing, Rob received a letter from the federal prison where she was serving her time. Diana wrote that she was participating in counseling programs and working toward a psychology degree through correspondence courses. She hoped to work with other women who'd made destructive choices when she was released. "I understand why you divorced me," the letter concluded. "I understand why the children barely respond to my calls. I destroyed the most important things in my life for a fantasy that was never real. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know that I take full responsibility for my choices." Rob showed the letter to Jennifer, who'd become his girlfriend and the children's de facto stepmother over the past year. "She sounds like she's doing the work," Jennifer observed. "Real accountability, not just self-pity. Does that change anything?" "For your children, maybe. They might be more willing to have a relationship with her if she can maintain this kind of honesty and responsibility." "And for us?" Jennifer took his hand. "Rob, you've built a life based on truth and stability. Diana's growth doesn't change the fact that she's no longer part of that life. But it might mean your children can eventually have a healthier relationship with their mother." Rob nodded. Diana's redemption, if it was genuine, could benefit Alex and Emma without affecting the new family structure he'd built. It was possible to hope for her recovery while maintaining the boundaries necessary to protect his children. 3 years after Diana's arrest, Rob proposed to Jennifer during a family vacation to Colorado. Alex and Emma, had specifically requested that he ask her to marry him, saying they wanted to make their family official. "We've already been through the worst together," Rob said as he knelt beside the mountain lake where they'd been hiking. "I can't imagine facing the future with anyone else." Jennifer's acceptance was enthusiastic, and the celebration dinner that evening was one of the happiest moments Rob could remember since the nightmare began. Diana was released from federal prison 2 months before Rob and Jennifer's wedding. She attended the children's school events when permitted and maintained weekly phone contact, but she didn't attempt to interfere with the wedding plans or challenge the new family structure. "She seems different," Alex observed after one of Diana's supervised visits. "More real, I guess." "How so?" Rob asked. "Before, she always acted like everything was perfect, even when it wasn't. Now she admits when she doesn't know something or when she's made mistakes." Emma was less philosophical but equally observant. "Mommy says she's proud of our new family. She says Jennifer makes us happy." Rob found Diana's apparent acceptance both surprising and relieving. He'd expected more resistance to the changes in their children's lives, but Diana seemed genuinely committed to prioritizing Alex and Emma's well-being over her own desires. The wedding was small and intimate, held in the backyard of the home Rob and Jennifer had bought together. Alex served as best man, Emma as maid of honor, and the ceremony focused on the blending of two families who'd found healing together. "You've taught me that trust isn't something you give automatically," Jennifer said in her vows. "It's something you build together, day by day, through complete honesty and shared commitment." Rob's vows reflected the journey that had brought them together. "You helped me believe that betrayal doesn't have to define the rest of my life. You showed me that love built on truth is stronger than love built on fantasy." 5 years after Diana's arrest, Rob's consulting company, Castellanos Security Solutions, had become nationally recognized for insider threat prevention. He spoke regularly at corporate security conferences, sharing the hard-won expertise that had emerged from his personal catastrophe. "The most dangerous corporate espionage doesn't come from foreign agents or sophisticated hackers," he told audiences. "It comes from trusted insiders who've been compromised by personal relationships. The key to prevention is understanding that anyone with access can become a threat under the right circumstances." Alex, now 18, was studying criminal justice at Texas A&M, inspired by his father's investigation work and interested in corporate security. Emma, 15, excelled in high school and had developed a close relationship with Jennifer, often calling her mom without prompting. Diana had completed her supervised release and was working as a peer counselor at a nonprofit organization that helped formerly incarcerated women reintegrate into society. Her relationship with the children remained limited but stable, consisting of monthly visits and regular communication. "She's found her purpose," Jennifer observed after attending one of Emma's school events where Diana was also present. "Helping other women avoid the mistakes she made." "Do you think she's genuinely changed?" "I think she's accepted the consequences of her choices and found a way to build meaning from the wreckage. That's the best anyone can do after causing that much damage." Rob agreed. Diana's transformation, whether complete or partial, didn't erase the past or restore what had been lost. But it provided a foundation for Alex and Emma to maintain a relationship with their mother without compromising their stability or security. 7 years after the laundry room discovery that had started everything, Rob stood before a conference room full of Fortune 500 security directors, delivering his most requested presentation, recognizing insider threats in personal and professional life. "The same analytical skills that protect your company's trade secrets can protect your family from betrayal," he told the audience. "Trust but verify everything. Pay attention to changes in behavior patterns. Understand that the people closest to you have the greatest opportunity to cause damage." During the Q&A session, a security director from a major tech company asked, "How do you balance necessary suspicion with maintaining personal relationships?" Rob's answer drew from 7 years of hard-won wisdom. "You don't live in constant suspicion. You live in constant awareness. You notice things. You ask questions when situations don't make sense. You verify important information instead of assuming it's true. And most importantly, you build relationships with people who demonstrate consistent integrity over time." After the presentation, Rob drove home to Plano, where Jennifer was helping Emma with college applications and Alex was visiting from Texas A&M. The house was filled with the comfortable chaos of a blended family that had found its rhythm through shared commitment to honesty and mutual support. "How was the conference?" Jennifer asked, kissing him hello. "Good. 3 new clients and a speaking invitation from the FBI Academy." "Dad," Emma called from the kitchen table where she was working on essays, "can you help me with this question about overcoming challenges?" Rob sat down beside his daughter, looking at the college application that asked students to describe a significant obstacle they'd overcome and how it had shaped their character. "What are you thinking of writing about?" he asked. "I want to write about how our family got stronger after Mom's arrest, but I don't know if I should mention the criminal stuff." Rob considered the question carefully. Emma had lived through a traumatic experience, but she'd also witnessed resilience, redemption, and the power of choosing truth over comfortable lies. "Write about what you learned," he suggested. "That trust is earned through consistent actions. That integrity matters more than perfection. That families can heal from betrayal if they commit to complete honesty with each other." Emma smiled. "That's exactly what I wanted to say." As Rob helped his daughter craft her essay, he reflected on the journey that had brought them to this point. Diana's betrayal had nearly destroyed everything he valued most. But the systematic response he'd learned in the military, applied with the analytical skills he'd developed in corporate operations, had not only protected his family, but created new opportunities for service and success. Alex wandered into the kitchen, home from college for spring break. "Dad, my criminal justice professor wants to know if you'd be willing to guest lecture about corporate espionage cases. As long as it doesn't interfere with your studies. Actually, it might help. I'm thinking about specializing in white-collar crime investigation. Your case is kind of famous in academic circles." Rob found it gratifying that the worst experience of his life had become educational material that might help prevent similar betrayals in other families. The transformation wasn't complete redemption. The pain and damage could never be fully erased, but it represented a meaningful response to meaningless suffering. That evening, after the kids had gone to bed, Rob and Jennifer sat on their back porch, looking out over the garden they'd planted together. "Any regrets?" Jennifer asked, a question that had become something of a tradition during their quiet moments. "About Diana? No. About how I handled it? No. About marrying you? Definitely not. About the path that brought us together?" Rob considered the question seriously. If Diana hadn't betrayed him, he never would have met Jennifer. His children wouldn't have learned the hard lessons about integrity that were shaping their character. His career wouldn't have taken the direction that had brought him national recognition and the ability to help other families avoid similar trauma. "I wouldn't choose that path again," he said finally, "but I'm grateful for where it led us." Jennifer nodded, understanding the complexity of building happiness from the wreckage of betrayal. Their marriage was stronger precisely because it had been forged in the aftermath of deception, built on the foundation of complete transparency and shared commitment to truth. A decade after the discovery of those misplaced boxer briefs, Rob Castellano had become one of the nation's leading experts on insider threats and corporate security. His marriage to Jennifer was strong and stable, his children were thriving in college and high school, and his consulting firm was helping companies across America protect themselves from the kind of betrayal that had once nearly destroyed his life. Diana remained a peripheral figure in their world, a cautionary tale who had found her own path to redemption through service to other women who'd made destructive choices. The children maintained a relationship with her that was limited but genuine, understanding both her love for them and the necessity of the boundaries that protected their stability. Marcus Webb had disappeared into federal prison obscurity, his career permanently destroyed and his name synonymous with corporate espionage in security industry circles. He'd lost everything: job, reputation, freedom, for a conspiracy that had ultimately gained him nothing of lasting value. The final irony wasn't lost on Rob as he prepared for another speaking engagement at a corporate security conference. The systematic betrayal that was meant to destroy his career had instead elevated it beyond anything he could have achieved through conventional means. Diana's attempt to steal his future had inadvertently given him a different and more meaningful one. "The most important lesson from my experience," Rob told audiences at the end of his presentations, isn't about protecting trade secrets or preventing industrial espionage. It's about the power of responding to betrayal with integrity rather than vengeance. When someone attacks your life systematically, you have a choice. Become bitter and defensive, or become stronger and more purposeful. He would pause, looking out at the executives and security professionals who'd come to learn from his experience. I chose to become stronger. My family chose to become more honest. My company chose to become more secure. The people who betrayed us chose to destroy themselves. In the end, the choice you make after betrayal determines whether you become a victim or an expert. Rob's story had become proof that systematic destruction could be met with systematic reconstruction, that betrayal could be transformed into expertise, and that trust, once shattered, could be rebuilt on a stronger foundation than had existed before. The laundry that had revealed the first thread of deception had ultimately unraveled a complex web of corporate espionage and personal betrayal. But it had also revealed the strength that comes from choosing truth over comfortable lies, justice over revenge, and healing over hatred. In the end, Rob Castellano had learned that the most effective response to being systematically betrayed was to systematically rebuild everything that mattered: family, career, trust, and purpose better than it had been before. The underwear in the hamper had revealed more than an affair. It had revealed the possibility of transformation through trial, the power of integrity under pressure, and the unexpected gifts that could emerge from the ruins of a marriage destroyed by betrayal. Diana's criminal conviction had ended one chapter of Rob's life and begun another that was richer, more purposeful, and more secure than anything he could have imagined during those first dark days when he discovered that the woman he trusted most had been systematically destroying everything he'd worked to build. The story that began with a simple domestic task had evolved into a complex case study in corporate security, family resilience, and the power of choosing justice over vengeance. Rob's methodical approach to investigating and responding to betrayal had not only protected his family and his company, but had created a new career dedicated to helping others protect themselves from similar threats. As he looked toward the future, Rob knew that the foundation he'd built with Jennifer and the children was strong enough to withstand whatever challenges might come. They'd been tested by the worst kind of betrayal and had emerged stronger, more honest, and more committed to each other than before. The systematic destruction of trust had led to the systematic construction of something better. Diana's legacy wasn't the damage she'd caused, but the strength she'd unknowingly helped create in the family she'd left behind. Her betrayal had become their triumph. Her deception had become their commitment to truth, and her attempt to destroy had become their inspiration to build something worthy of protection. In the military, Rob had learned that victory wasn't just about defeating the enemy. It was about achieving objectives that made the sacrifice worthwhile. The objectives he'd achieved in rebuilding his life after Diana's betrayal were more valuable than anything she'd tried to steal. She'd taken trade secrets that could be replaced. He'd gained expertise that would last a lifetime. She'd destroyed a marriage built on assumptions. He'd built one based on proven character. She'd damaged their children temporarily. He'd helped them develop strength and wisdom that would serve them forever. The final chapter of Rob's story wasn't about revenge or justice. It was about the transformation of betrayal into expertise, destruction into construction, and broken trust into unshakable foundation. Diana had shown him what was possible when someone chose deception over integrity. Rob had shown his children, his wife, his company, and his clients what was possible when someone chose to respond to that deception with systematic, principled action focused on protection rather than destruction. The boxer briefs that didn't belong had revealed a conspiracy that went far beyond a simple affair. They'd exposed corporate espionage, criminal behavior, and systemic betrayal that threatened everything Rob had worked to build. But they'd also revealed his own capacity for strategic thinking, his commitment to truth over comfort, and his ability to transform personal catastrophe into professional expertise. In discovering those misplaced undergarments during a routine Saturday morning laundry session, Rob Castellano had unknowingly begun the most important investigation of his life. An investigation that would destroy his marriage but save his family, end his wife's career but launch his own in a new direction, and prove that the most devastating betrayals could become the foundation for the most meaningful victories. The laundry had been folded, the truth had been revealed, and justice had been served. What remained was a life rebuilt on bedrock rather than sand, a family strengthened by trial rather than weakened by it, and a legacy of choosing integrity over convenience that would influence far more people than Diana's betrayal had ever hurt. Rob Castellano's story had become proof that when you respond to systematic betrayal with systematic justice, when you choose truth over comfortable lies, and when you build your future on the foundation of proven character rather than assumed trust, the result isn't just recovery, it's transformation into something stronger than what existed before the betrayal began.